Look, the other thing that happened yesterday, and it would be fair to say for the last 10 years in terms of what we'd call new media or the changing media landscape, one of the major players, like them or not, has been an outfit called the Spinoff. And the Spinoff issued a very, and I hate to say it, and I say it with a sense of love, a public open letter which was very much like a lot of its articles. A little bit worthy, way too long, and quite woke. But it had a message beneath it, a message that I found sort of interesting and worthy of debate. Stuff is basically saying in its letter, we are running out of money. We're going to have to lay off 10 staff, and we haven't got any New Zealand on-air money. The Public Interest Journalism Fund is dried up. We're getting nothing commissioned from the taxpayer or the government. We have around 6,000 subscribers, but we need more, and you just need to give us money if Stuff is to continue as a journalistic or as a media enterprise. It's not quite as pathetic as the completely created crisis that Rabbit Hole Radio did a wee while back, which was just a big grift, basically, a big grift ask by Rabbit Hole Radio. But I'll be honest, and objectively, it's quite close. But to find out what's happening, because the Spinoff, as I said, has been a pretty big player in a part of the market, I thought I'd talk to one of its founders and one of its bosses, Duncan Greive. Duncan, how are you, mate? Good morning.
Morning, Sean. I'm good, man. Just a couple of quick corrections. It's 9,000, not 6,000.
9,000 subscribers. Jesus, and you still can't make a profit.
And you called us Stuff a couple of times.
Sorry, Spinoff. I've just come off covering a piece of wonderful stuff from Stuff. No, don't worry. I'm sorry. You're worse than Stuff. You're more left than Stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, if you're ranking how bad various organisations are, surely
now, firstly, Duncan, though I do know from chatting to you and watching the market, this isn't a cry wolf while you've got some American or Canadian Christian billionaire in the background funding you. You really aren't. Your organisation is in trouble, right?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the sort of semi-tongue-in-cheek intro, but yeah, I mean, the advertising market, which we're very much a part of, is sort of a known problem. You know, that was what ultimately led to the demise of News Hub and the cuts for TVNZ. The thing that you talked about in terms of New Zealand on air support, yeah, that was the sort of unexpected thing that caused us to make this
appeal. Could I ask you, Duncan, just to clarify the issue, how much government or taxpayer funding from any source would you estimate Spinoff received in its lifetime?
I mean, without wanting to get into the weeds of it,
it's not the weeds. That's just one very broad guesstimate number.
Look, can I just answer the question?
Yep.
Just give me the grace of it, right? So the New Zealand on air system, and this will be like a detour, but it funds people to make stuff to put on a platform that wouldn't otherwise be there if it wasn't funded.
Yeah, no, I know all that, Duncan. I'm just asking for the figure.
Yeah, because for the most part, that money goes to an external production company to make the thing, and you just put it on yours.
Okay, so you can factor that into your answer.
Well, so in terms of money directly to the Spinoff, a relatively small figure, maybe $1 or $2 million. I don't have it in front of me. In terms of the total,
give us a ballpark.
Funding, honestly, I just don't it's just not something
millions?
I pay attention to. Yes.
Tens of millions?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not.
So somewhere less than $10 million.
Yes,
Okay.
I would guess it's significantly less. But remembering that, when you're talking about New Zealand on air funding for TVNZ, do you think of that as funding for TVNZ, or do you think of that as funding for South Pacific Pictures or Greenstone or Great Southern?
Well, Duncan, to be honest, I think about it as propaganda.
Well, I mean, that's fine, but it's quite important because they're literally separate businesses.
But you get free content, right, that you can then sell your advertising around.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Imagine, like, we don't sell advertising against that content. There wasn't advertising. No, did you listen to Juggernaut?
Yeah. No, I didn't listen to Juggernaut, Duncan.
Oh, you'd have loved it, Sean. You'd have absolutely loved it.
Probably wouldn't. Well, look, Duncan, I can understand how having had content produced at taxpayer spent and having received somewhere less than $10 million in government funding. And let's be honest, Duncan, let's not mess around because I don't want us to BS each other. The Spinoff has an editorial and a philosophical and ideological and a political bent that was, until the last election, very much in line with the government of the day, right?
I don't think that's true.
What?
I would, Sean, a couple of things. Like, one is, when you talk about, like, the government procures all kinds of things. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
And one of the things it procures is content it would like to see in the world, and it goes through a procurement process like any other, and we choose to pitch to be part of that system. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not.
But as you pointed out in your letter, you're getting none of that money now, and what has changed? The government's changed.
No, but I actually don't think it's connected to that. The thing that's different.
Real world.
Honestly, we can have a really good conversation, you and I think we both know that. But like this kind of like made up sparring, it isn't conducive to that. Like, I'm going to say something and you're going to enjoy it, and then we'll start talking from there. Like, genuinely, you will like what I have to say. So just let me say it, okay?
All right.
So the thing that's different is that all of our core competitor sets got funded to make things that were sort of core, that you can kind of build your network around or your platform around, and we didn't get it this time. Now, it's very easy to infer that we now have a right-wing government that has somehow put its thumb on the scale with New Zealand on air, and we're sort of reaping what we sow of being perceived as being a left-leaning platform. I don't believe that. I genuinely don't believe that. I think it's just that New Zealand Air, for whatever reason, didn't find our pitches compelling, or had a particular vision, and it just kind of the cards fell where they did. And our response to that is, I wouldn't love it. I'm not going to lie, but it does make it kind of clear. And this is a thing where I think we do agree, is that ultimately your audience is the one that decides whether you get to exist in the world in a modern news media environment. And I know that's true for you guys, and it's true for us too, and there's something kind of refreshing about that. And like, it takes a weight off. You're like, well, we've asked them, we've told the truth. Yes, probably overlong, to your mind, maybe. I don't really see that, but sure. But, like, whatever other words you use, sure, the shoe might fit sometimes. But ultimately the audience decides, just as your audience will decide whether you get to exist once. And I think there's something. I just want to go back to saying,
you talked about the 4 competitors that did get funding. Who are they?
Well, I mean, like TVNZ gets funding, Tree gets funding, NZME, Stuff, Newsroom, like that's the sort of RNZ, like that's the group of kind of nominally mainstream media who get funded very regularly out of rounds of New Zealand Air. We just had 2 rounds in a row. We've had years of being funded. Our audience is robust. We fit all the criteria. It's not extraordinary to think that we would get something funded.
So there's no question in your mind that the problems you're having now are in any way related to you not providing stuff your audience wants or not doing good journalism.
No, because just as you have, extraordinary data through your distribution on your platform and on YouTube, when you're hot and when you're not, and all of our lines are pointing up right now. So it's absolutely not that. And I don't know if you read the story we published on Monday about an account of a multi-year sort of stalking. One of our most
look, it was a really interesting account. I did have a few questions about why she didn't go to the police earlier, and I can't verify the entirety of the story. But I always question stuff for the spin-off, Duncan, and I'm going to give you an example of why. When the platform started, you asked my business partner, Wayne Wright Jr., for an interview. and he was happy to give one. And you put a headline on it that said 2 hours with the secretive rich lister behind Sean Plunket's platform.
So can I explain that headline?
What was secretive about him?